In our first video for this section, we talked about two things. We talked about the imaginary unit and that the square root of -1, that is I. That's how we represent it. We also said I squared is equal to -1. So don't forget that, okay, because that's going to come up here in just a minute. All right, so now we're going to be multiplying complex numbers. So this first one, we have a 4i times 3 minus 5i. Okay, so you could think, oh, it's a pure imaginary number times a complex number in a plus bi form. Okay, so we're going to go 4i times 3. That'll be 12i. Probably not too shocking there. And then 4i times -5i. Well, that's going to be negative 20, because 4 times 5 is 20. And then you have an I times an I, which is I squared. Okay? But, okay, that's the multiplying. But we're going to think about this part right here. That I squared, we're not going to let it be I squared. We're going to make it -1. This is the simplifying part. So 12i minus 20 times -1. Well, that's going to make it 12i plus 20, right? Because you've got, minus 20 times -1 minus -20, which is plus 20. Okay. To write it in a plus bi form, we're going to put the real number part first and then the imaginary part. Okay? So this is the real part because it doesn't have the I. That's the A. And then this is the imaginary part. And because it has the I. So that's the bi. Okay? So we want it in a plus bi form, standard form. And this answer then would be 20 plus 12i. Okay, so if it wasn't making sense before, hopefully that helps. All right, the second part, you have a complex number times a complex number. Both of them are written in standard form, a plus bi form, and it kind of looks like a binomial, right? So we're going to use FOIL. 7 times -2, that's going to be -14. And then we're going to have 7 times -5i. That's going to be -35i. Then we're going to do the insides. Okay, negative times a negative is positive. And then 3 times 2 is 6i. Okay? And then we have the last. Negative times negative is positive. 3 times 5 is 15. And then I times I is I squared. Now, I always write the I squared because if I try to do two things at once, I'm going to get messed up with my signs, and then that's going to be a problem. So I just go ahead and write the I squared, and then I'll deal with it on the next step. Okay. So that's foiling, F-O-I-L, and that's what you get. So I have minus 14. I can combine those two terms. So what's -35i and 6i? -29i. Now, what's going to happen here? Well, because that I squared is going to be -1, I'm going to get a minus 15. Okay, now you can think about that as 15 times -1 if you want to think of it like that, but it's going to be a minus 15. So there's a little bit more I can do. I can combine the -14 and the -15, and I get -29 minus 29i. Now it's in a plus bi form, standard form, which is what we wanted. Okay, so it turns out that these complex numbers are, we say they're closed under addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division too. But what that means is I can always put my answer in a plus bi form. Okay.